Hi writers, I hope you've had a great day so far. I hope you're finding ways to keep warm on these fall blustery days. I'm thinking this is the perfect day for a cup of hot cocoa. What about you? Millie agrees, apparently. We'll see if we can get through a video without too many interruptions today, but I make no promises. So, the first thing that I want to remind you about is our service project that Mrs. Doyle talked with you today about. I noticed that a whole table in the back left their flyers and their cards. So next week, if you find that you forgot your flyer at school, please make sure to pick it up from me next week. So just a reminder, I will have this on Edline, however. We are collecting gently used or new coats, and we're gathering them, or you can bring them to school on Tuesday, November 13th, and we're going to donate them to Must Ministries. It's a local organization that helps people get back on their feet. So in addition to bringing in your gently used coats, you're going to write just a quick little note of encouragement on your note card that was sent home with you today, and you're going to hide it in one of the pockets. So make sure that you're thinking about what you want to say in your card, and remember that you're only to sign it with your first name. We're going to leave last names off. So I hope that you are looking around the house and maybe asking people that you know if anyone is looking to donate any coats. You can bring as many as you want. All right, the next thing I want to talk to you about is our writing focus for the week. Today we talked about the revision stage of the writing process, and I hope you remember that the revision stage is really where writers spend most of their time in the writing process. The thing that I want you to be working on this week is I want you to spend a lot of time rereading your piece of writing over and over and over. That is how you will shift from the writing mode to getting your thoughts down to then reflecting on, how does my piece sound? Is my piece matching my vision so far? So you're going to be doing a lot of rereading. You're going to be rethinking what you've written, and then you go back and you make the necessary changes. Don't forget the tips that I shared with you in class about skipping lines, about adding arms and legs, using those little carets to insert, and if you need to delete something, just draw a line through it, one single line through it, and don't black anything out or erase it. Everybody went home with a page that looks like this, and it's just a summary of the peer conference guidelines. Part of your homework assignment this week is to engage in a peer conference with at least 3 people. It can be people in your family, it can be friends, whomever is willing to listen. So I hope that you remember, or maybe you provide a peer conference to one of your friends in the class. Nevertheless, when you do a peer conference with someone, whether you're giving the feedback or someone is giving it to you, I want you to have this handy and just let them know that if they can provide a compliment, that would be great. If they have any questions or need clarification for something to ask, and then to offer a suggestion. And the most important thing about engaging in a peer conference is we do this because we want other people to provide feedback and give us suggestions so that we can improve our piece. So the most important part of a peer conference is what you do with the information. Don't just let them give you suggestions and then move on to somebody else. Your job is to carefully consider what your friend or family member has given you, and then make the necessary changes, because it's all about making sure that your piece is the very best that it can be. So this is going to be your job this week. You're going to be rereading, you're going to be revising based on how your piece matches your vision, and you're going to be revising based on the suggestions that others give you. Now, one last thing that I want to say about this is We as writers make the ultimate decision on what we add or take out or change in our piece. So if someone gives you some feedback or a suggestion that just isn't what you want to do, that's your choice. But I do hope that you carefully consider all of the feedback that you received this week. All right, I wanted to show you how I used the feedback that you gave me in class to make some changes to my piece. And you'll notice, I hope you noticed in class when you were giving me, when you were asking for when you were asking me questions and giving me feedback, I wrote down what you said so I didn't forget it. That's something that you might do when other people are talking to you about your piece. So you'll notice I added another arm to my piece because I changed the opening. So I thought I would read to you what just the first page, and hope maybe you can hear some of the changes that I made. Let me remind you of what you suggested. Well, the first thing that you said was you needed me to clarify what greenware was in my piece. And then someone asked me to fix up the part where I was confused, which I did. And then another piece of feedback was to describe how it made me feel. I'm still working on that part. I haven't quite made that change. And then the other thing I did was, based on the book, my Newbery book, The Mixed Up Files of Miss Basil E. Frankweiler, I wanted to think about how she built a good story, and she connected to how most kids have like a fantasy of running away. So she connected with the reader. So I tried that in my piece as far as talking about the naughty aspect. So let's see what you think. So I changed the beginning. Here's how it starts now. People say even the best kids have a naughty streak or a sneaky side to them. I was no exception. So that's the change that I made to the beginning of my piece, based on what I learned from studying my Newbery book. Let me continue. Aunt Pat is the best kind of aunt, the kind that sneaks you candy 5 minutes after Mom and Dad say no more. The kind that always brought a gift for me, even on my sister's birthday. Aunt Pat is just that, the best kind of aunt. I always looked forward to visiting her big old house in Pennsylvania. The basement was the best part, even if it was also the scariest part of the house. Aunt Pat's basement was like a dungeon because it was dark, musty, and old. But when I flipped on the lights, it became an inviting art studio, beckoning me to come play. The walls were filled with shelves and shelves of white greenware, blank canvases of ceramics, and the tables full of paintbrushes and jars of fun, colorful paint. So, did you pick up on some of the changes that I made? That's what writers do. They take the feedback that they get from their peer conferences and they make changes to improve their piece. I hope that you could see and hear some of the changes that I made based on your feedback, and that's what I hope you do this week with your piece of writing. All right, the last thing that I want to talk to you about is commas. So today we're going to continue talking about how writers use commas for pause and effect in their writing. Yes, there are tons of comma rules, but most importantly, commas and any punctuation for that matter are tools that writers use for the writing effect. And here's Leo jumping up on my desk. Leo, you're kind of in my way here, buddy. I don't think you can sit there. Come on. Sit here. All right, lay down. Be a good boy. All right, so this week we're going to talk about, if I am in the 5th grade Easy Grammar book, we're going to be talking about Rule 18, which is use a comma to set off an appositive. That's the rule in the 5th grade book. And in the 6th grade Easy Grammar book, it is Rule 13, and it's kind of a blend of Rule 13, which is the appositive rule, and also Rule 4, which is that writers use a comma to set off interrupters in a sentence. So I'm going to kind of show you what that looks like in kind of an easier way to understand, and then we'll look to some literature. So basically, an appositive is when you break up a sentence with another description of the noun or the subject of the sentence. So here's my visual for this rule. So this rule basically means that this Leo, oh my goodness, you stay over there. Thank you. Basically what it means is the sentence. So here's the first part of the sentence. Here's the end of the sentence. Somehow the sentence is interrupted with a phrase. Now, if it's an appositive, it's a word or phrase that further describes the noun in the sentence. Like in this sentence, Mrs. Appanay, your teacher, that's the appositive, thinks you are very good writers. I'll read it to you again. Mrs. Appanay, your teacher, thinks you are very good writers. And that is true, by the way. So you'll notice that here's the subject or the noun, Mrs. Appanay, and then the appositive, your teacher. It's just another way, it's just some more other information about the subject, me, I'm your teacher. And then the rest of the sentence, thinks you are very good writers. Now the thing about this rule is that you can take out the interrupter and it's still a complete sentence. So Mrs. Appanay thinks you are very good writers. It's a complete sentence. You don't need to have this part in here. It's an interrupter. It's extra. So I thought I would share with you two examples from literature, one where the interrupter is an appositive, and then another example where the interrupter isn't necessarily an appositive, it's just an interrupter. So I have two examples from Poppy. Here's the first one. It says, one of the two, a deer mouse, crouched cautiously beneath a length of rotten bark. So the subject is one. It says one of the two, comma, a deer mouse. So a deer mouse is further describing one of the two. So that makes it an appositive. I can't really show it to you because you can't see it, but I'm going to read it again. One of the two, comma, a deer mouse, comma, crouched cautiously beneath a length of rotten bark. So that is an example of where the sentence was basically interrupted with a phrase, which we're going to call the interrupter, or in this case, it was an appositive. Okay, so the second example is an example where the interrupter is actually just an interruption to the sentence. It's not in any way further describing the subject or noun. So this is another example from Poppy. Let me read you the sentence. Erith, however, continued to make his ponderous way towards the log's entrance where the fox was still barking and yelping. I'm going to read it again, and this time I'm going to tell you where the comma goes and what the interrupter is, but you've probably already picked up on what the interrupter is. Erith, comma, however, comma, continued to make his ponderous way toward the log's entrance where the fox was still barking and yelping. So in this case, the interrupter was the word however. Has nothing to do with anything in the sentence. It's just that. It's an interrupter. But authors use that to give pause and effect. Erith, however, continued to make his ponderous way toward the log's entrance where the fox was still barking and yelping. Remember that next week I need you to bring your writing piece again because we're going to have another writing lab. We'll have a lesson and a writing lab. You'll have another chance to get feedback from an adult. It might be me or it might be one of our parent volunteers. And also you'll need to bring a sticky note with the names of the people who provided you feedback because that is part of your grade this week. The revising and then also soliciting feedback through a peer conference. Have a great week. Happy Halloween if you choose to celebrate Halloween. And I will see you next Tuesday. Bye.